Hey, what's going on, aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane Podcast, episode number 88 today, to review the French Grand Prix and also do a bit of a preview and prediction of the Austrian Grand Prix, of course, as we got the first of two back-to-back races here in June to July. But yeah, back with your host, myself, Aarav, Callum, and Tom, and reviewing the French Grand Prix. Well, It was okay. I mean, I think we're thinking it was going to be an absolute disaster of a race. Looking at Paul Ricard, you look at their layout and it doesn't look great. I think all three of us predicted a pretty meh Grand Prix. I mean, that was the title of the last podcast, so it was okay.
Surprisingly, yeah. Like we rarely slammed it, and I think it's not just us that slammed it. Everyone was going to slam it because it is this high performance test track which has no gravel traps. Is a very boring looking track in terms of how challenging it is. But it actually gave us quite a lot of overtakes, which completely blows all of our minds because no one could overtake in Montreal, which is home for overtaking. And then everyone could overtake on that illustrious back straight, which got loads of press about whether or not it should have a chicane, whether it should not have a chicane, this, that and the other. But it wasn't that much of a bore fest, which I think came to quite a surprise.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty semi-decent race. I think we was all pleasantly surprised, and yeah, I don't mind going back there again next year. Quite happy with how the race went, especially next year with potentially less dirty air, could be even better. So yeah. Overall, well done, Paul Ricard, to take a page out of the back of his playbook.
Well done. Yeah, we're going to turn up next year. They're going to have like purple banners everywhere. Well done, Paul Ricard. Well done. Didn't muck that up. But yeah, so let's talk about the opening lap, and then we'll get kind of team by team, because that was really the big thing to kind of dissect, was that opening lap. And of course, turn one, Vettel locking up and going into Bottas. A lot of questions about, was the 5-second penalty harsh enough for Sebastian? A lot of debates, not just with fans, but also even Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen were having a bit of a chat post-race. We saw a video from courtesy of F1 about that chat in the post-race room, and also even in the little buggy there. They're talking about it. I don't know. What do you guys make of it in terms of, was 5 seconds too little?
I thought he was going to get a drive-through. I thought it was that level because I can see why the FIA only gave him a 5 second, because he ruined his own race as well. Like, he did have to pit and go right to the back of the field. Was saved by the safety car, but Bottas still came off worse with damage to his car and a puncture, which I feel so sorry for him because he gets such bad luck when it comes to these sort of things. But I did think he was going to get maybe something a little bit harsher. It wasn't like the worst crash in the world, and he did accept fault and blame and all that, but yeah, a few people were up in airs, but I think there's no huge, like, any sort of discussion behind it. I feel like he should have got maybe a little bit more, just because how you compare his race to Bottas's race, but that could be down to a wild other plethora of things, not just the damage on his car. But I don't know. Still, I think 5 seconds was still good enough.
I think the fact it was a lap one, turn one isn't maybe get on my agile. I think if that happens anywhere else, any other time, I think maybe you give him more drive through. But the fact it was just lap one, turn one, maybe just sort of cushioned the penalty a bit, because he's definitely for blame. All his fault. He locked up. I do agree in a way, maybe, because he was really close to Hamilton, maybe because of the whole dirty air thing, he sort of just misjudged it, and he just didn't have no control when he got to the brake zone. But I mean, he had a really good start. Like he said, maybe too good of a start, but overall, I think
yeah, it was
no other fingers to point at. He was sort of boxed in, wasn't he? So
yeah,
I think also being boxed in, maybe he didn't really get a reference point for braking, and he just sort of, do I brake too early and get hit from behind, or do I go aggressive and risk lock? I don't know. I think it's just a bit of a turn one kerfuffle as well, but he was totally to blame, and I think the penalty was fair just because it was lap on, turn one.
The hilarious part was the fact that people blamed Hamilton for it.
I just heard that from you yesterday. I didn't understand that. I was like, how on earth
if anyone
is that?
Hasn't seen these comments, Facebook F1 is
just
a graveyard of awfulness. Like, there was a few people out there going, yeah, it was Hamilton because he broke too early. And everyone, literally, there must have been about 100 comments afterwards going, yeah, mate, no. Just no.
Yeah, no.
Sit in that corner and enjoy that. But
I don't think in any world that is a situation where that's the correct way to look at it. So, yeah, it's a bit odd. It wasn't just also that. Then later, a little bit on in the lap, we also had Gasly and Ocon. Unfortunate to the French drivers going out their home Grand Prix. I said it in my top 5 moments video, but sometimes a home Grand Prix can sometimes be good luck for people like Hamilton, and it can also be a bogey one because JB never went well around Silverstone, and I think also Vettel's never been amazing around the German Grand Prix.
Barrichello springs to mind when you say that, because he never had a good Brazilian Grand Prix.
So it was an unfortunate one for Gasly and Ocon. It was a weird one because Gasly it looked like he was going to hit Ocon either way, but also kind of made it half worse because he started to spin on his own accord as he hit Ocon.
Yeah.
Like the rear end just stepped out. So that was weird. And then that part of the circuit also saw a lot of people escape to the off-road, and that caused a bit of a funny moment with Alonso after the race, talking about taking the Joker lap because it looked like a kind of just cutting the... I mean, to be fair, that Paul Ricard circuit has the potential for a Joker lap in F1 because there's so many different ways you can easily just take a different route.
We saw Verstappen at turn 1 when he was avoiding Vettel and Bottas. He said after the race he basically took the fast chicane through the literally quickest line you can take going down towards the next part of the track. Like, he made, obviously he couldn't make the corner, but he made no attempt to maybe get back on the circuit a bit early. He was just like, I'm just going to take the fast chicane and, just hope no one
Smart
noticed.
thinking, because he had nowhere to go, Like,
I mean, Magnussen, I think, did it as well, but he had to drop back because I think he could have made it, but then he dropped back. I think Sainz also benefited quite well. But it's hard for the FIA to judge it all, because how do they...
Yeah, I think K-Mag came back on track just with Sainz, so like Magnussen kind of half gained, but I think K-Mag might have been trying to get Sainz into turn 1 anyway, so it's kind of half and half, but then Sainz held his own there. So yeah, it's a tricky one for the FIA to do. I guess like Tom said, because it's lap 1, you kind of give these things a little bit of leeway, because it's, you always know it's going to be a bit hectic.
Yeah. And that's the problem with that sort of track. Is the fact that you can't enforce anything. Like, you put 2 gravel traps either side of the track, no one, no one is going to be there.
Gasly, for me, if you have no context and you look at the crash, Gasly completely took Ocon out. But I don't think he got nothing for it because it's just a bit of a lap 1.
They both got reprimanded.
All right, but even still, I don't think Ocon has no blame in that, which is a bit odd for me.
I read it just before we started. It was because he apparently came aggressively across the track, which you can see. He does come towards the apex, but Gasly does literally. I just feel like
it's like another one of the similar. It's like similar to the Vettel Bottas one in a different angle, like the other way around, reverse. So Gasly just locked up, got too hot, lost the rear.
Yeah.
That's why I think lap 1 just tends to get a bit of leniency from the stewards. But yeah, an enjoyable first lap. A lot of mixing positions. Leclerc had a great start as well. Sainz, shout out Sainz, P3, really good start for him. He looked great all weekend, but we'll delve into that as we go team by team.
Yeah, I'll rue what happened to him. I guess that kind of good way to kind of go into it and just try and dissect this Grand Prix. So I guess we'll start with Mercedes. Obviously, Hamilton had a pretty pedestrian race, really. No incidents for him, luckily, on turn 1. I mean, I think he on team radio was even asking, like, did we get caught up in anything like that? Is there anything I need to know? And he's like, no. The team radio was like, nah, it's all behind you. It's fine, it's calm. And he pretty much didn't put a foot wrong, I don't think. He had one mistake.
Fastest qualifying lap, not fastest lap of the race, but he's still qualifying race win, untouchable, really.
Yeah, perfect weekend for him.
I didn't expect Mercedes, or especially Hamilton. I mean, it wasn't Mercedes because Bottas got second, but I didn't expect them to go that well around Paul Ricard. That quite surprised me.
I think all three of us thought Red Bull would be good.
Who knows? Definitely seems you can see a difference when they just put a fresh power unit in the car. But I think also Red Bull surprised me in a bad way. I know Verstappen's only 5 seconds behind Hamilton, but I don't think Hamilton was really pushing that much.
No, it was race management that was, but.
Yeah,
it was interesting because obviously this is another track that Mercedes benefited, i.e. from the lower tyre gauge tyres that was once introduced back in Spain. Whether or not that would have impacted the result if they went for the more gauge of tyres, or there would have been if we would have saw any blistering issues that was pointed out in Spain after the actual Grand Prix when they did the testing. But it does seem that I think we've finally worked out that the Mercedes is good in mid to high speed corners. I feel like that is where the Mercedes is probably the best, and obviously that's where the long car doesn't really affect anything, unlike a track like Monaco where you need to be quite nimble through the streets. But it does seem that that's where the Mercedes is excelling, and we can probably say that Silverstone is probably their next chance to get a win. Obviously, they did win Austria
Well,
last year.
Austria, I think, is a very clear chance for them to win, personally.
I mean, they could, but we don't know how well.
There is no real... there's the hairpins, but I mean, there's so many fast corners and straights.
I mean, Phil's only about 9 corners anyway, so...
It's a power circuit, so I
it's
think
a power
they have a very good chance of rocking up and doing very well, I think, next weekend.
I think they're the favourites. So
it's going to be...
You can't put anyone else on as favourites into Austria or Silverstone other than Mercedes.
It's going to be a bit of a hit for Vettel even more, because you think about like just the bigger picture. You know, these little mistakes are really costing big time when you come to like these parts of the season where Merc are going to rock up being well. And speaking about Merc being well, I really hope that Bottas can have a bit of rub of the green in the next two races at least, because like Cal said earlier, he's gone very unlucky this season, and he came back to P7, which is all right. He got held up a little bit early, right in the kind of opening laps after him and Vettel made the pit stop. But Vettel was definitely going a little bit faster through the traffic than Bottas was. I feel like maybe he needed to get used to things, and also he had a bit of damage on the floor, which he definitely had to get used to maybe. And then by the end of the Grand Prix, maybe he was able to drive with the damage.
I still think Vettel did a really good job though through the traffic.
He did, really but I think it was very clear Bottas had bigger issues, because I think even like on lap 47, like 5 laps to go, there was a replay of him closing up on K-Mag, and he was like into the chicane on the back straight, into the apex of the turn, the left turn. He was turning right into the apex because he was having to like counteract the car. So I think he's done a fabulous job for P7, but hopefully gets better luck.
Should have been P6 if I remember that dodgy pit stop.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Without that a rare dodgy pit stop from Mercedes actually, with the rear jack, I think failing or just being released a bit too early.
Like that,
there was one concern though for them, which is obviously Perez's engine trouble with the upgraded power unit. They found a gremlin, which they do not know. Like they were said, we possibly have an issue. He said on the radio, so maybe a bit of an investigation required there. But that's a possible gremlin in the new engine, because that was sort of very last minute on the Friday morning to put it in the car. So,
well, did you two find it quite weird how the fact that I don't know whether you watched FP1 and FP2, but we didn't know we knew it was a new unit in the car.
They had to put a new one in.
We didn't know. No, but in terms of all of the Mercedes cars, we didn't know whether or not it was the new spec engine or the old spec. So if it was like
a very late call.
New parts.
That's the risk.
It wasn't. They had the new engine in right in FP1.
Yeah.
But they never told us, and I don't know why they felt the need to hide it, just in case they had reliability option. Like that's their part now. They'd have to keep that for the rest of the season. That's one of their 3. So I'm not entirely sure why they had to hide it.
I just played a little bit of mind games maybe with the rest of the grid. Just a bit.
The hilarious part was, who released the cat out of the bag, don't you? Nicky Lauda. He just went, yeah, it's a new engine. Yeah. He literally didn't hide anything. When he was asked the first time of asking, he just went, yeah, new engine.
He doesn't give a toss. He just say how it is.
That's why he's a non-executive
vice. Yeah, he's used to all of like the non-hidey stuff. He's just like, yeah, let's go racing.
He's just used to getting it done, getting out there. But pretty much that's it from Mercedes. I mean, apart from Bottas, it was a perfect weekend for Hamilton's side.
Yeah, they could have had an easy one too, which is a big kick in the balls for the constructors. Because
I don't think it would have been an easy one too.
Oh, I do think it was. I
genuinely think Vettel had good pace. I really did. I thought Raikkonen was going quite well as well. I think it could have been a little bit closer than maybe what... I think they could have definitely pushed him a lot more than what the Red Bulls did. But obviously, turn 1 happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can move on to Ferrari. Actually, no, we need to move on to Red Bull. They're the second
Verstappen, second place, did well.
2 in a row.
He pretty much had a very quiet weekend. He had the same quiet weekend as Hamilton, really. Nothing really happened to him apart from lap 1, just taking the evasive action. And then, consistency.
In the press conference.
Yeah, I'll get to that because that was a nice moment. But consistency, like you were just about to say, Tom, with from Canada. So yeah, I mean, I talked about it before Canada that maybe this can be the start of his little stretch, maybe of like getting finally back on the horse, as it were, and kind of being consistent.
If you exclude Monaco, it's 3 in the last 4 now. So
yeah, he's doing well.
Podiums. Yeah, he's going well.
It's nice to see because you don't want a driver to be stuck in that rut for so long. It's hilarious as sometimes it might be on Twitter and everything. You don't want to see a driver stuck in that rut for so long. So the fact that it did look like he comfortably outpaced Ricciardo all weekend. I know Ricciardo had a slight issue with his front wing, but even still, it didn't look like Ricciardo was going to challenge him all weekend, really. I think there was a 10th or 2 in it in qualifying. And then, obviously Verstappen did benefit from the turn 1 shebang, but other than that, it did look like Verstappen had the upper hand on him all weekend, which is good to see, just building up a bit of momentum going into. This is exactly what you need, going 3 races on the trot. You need that nice bit of momentum. Hamilton's got the momentum, Verstappen's got it, and you could argue that Raikkonen's got it, but any driver that came second to their teammate will feel slightly on the back foot going into Austria. Do you want to talk about the media thing now? Just get it out of the way, because that was...
I haven't got much to say about it.
I thought it was quite uncalled for. Like, it did seem quite random. Like, Vettel makes one mistake, and
I think he needs to stay in his lane.
Slammed.
That's all I'm going to say.
What, Verstappen?
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I loved it. I applaud him for it, because it wasn't against Vettel. I think the media have twisted it. He wasn't saying anything bad about Vettel or about... Like, I even saw Crash.net, which was a shame. They put on their title, he's complaining that the media weren't attacking Vettel. I think everyone's misread what he was going for. He was taking a full jab at the media, not at all at Vettel or how the media were treating Vettel. I think he was just taking it. He took the opportunity to see the situation and kind of like, okay, it's the same as mine, kind of. So this is when I can take a nice juicy jab at the media and kind of go, right, surely you guys should be doing the same thing, huh? And then what Vettel's going to do? Vettel's going to do what I did and say nothing, do nothing, and he's just going to go about his business, and no one's going to care, because I think that's what he's believed the entire time, and I think that was a nice jab, because it kind of does make sense, because he has come back, he has been consistent, and Vettel definitely, even without Verstappen saying that, I think Vettel's always been that kind of driver in the past, where he's never really had to question how he drives. It's just like these little blips. I think it's part of his character almost. He kind of just has these tiny little blips of little mistakes here and there, but he's never really altered his driving style.
I wanted to get onto that a bit later on. But interestingly, with the media, it's not the first time it's been the drivers versus the media.
But I mean, I love it, because sometimes the media are such, like, just old farts. Like, they just take stabs. And
ironically, it was to do with Verstappen again. You know, when Hamilton called him a dickhead after that Bahrain Turn 1 incident. And Vettel then defended Hamilton. So it's not like, it is nice to see that it's not the drivers ganging up on each other. It is the drivers versus the media who do ask some pretty stupid questions.
Yeah, because I mean, also, what was it? Didn't Vettel also say something about Verstappen and the media? Like, I can't remember.
The Dutch reporter called him out for saying an expletive.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it literally is the drivers v the media, and I think the media, because they've like being attacked, essentially, they all felt the need to switch up the titles and make it look like Verstappen was attacking Vettel or attacking the way Vettel was treated. But it was really just a case of, it's just all on you guys of, so where are these questions then, huh? Where are they? And if they are, Vettel's not going to do anything, so you guys can all piss off. So
I mean, does it help?
The reason I say stay in his lane is because I know it's not an attack to Vettel, but the fact is that's just showing that the media's getting to him. And that's not what you need to be. You need to have thick skin. As good as it is to speak out,
I think it's getting to him. The media. I think if it was getting to him,
I think it is.
I think if it was getting to him, it would be a bit different. But it was a very cheeky way he said it. I don't think it was kind of like a emotional sort of like, what is this shit? Like,
I think at this level, it's all a mental game, innit? Like, I think we've realised over the past couple of years, you can have all the experience and you can have all the talent you want, but if you can't get yourself mentally straight with the media and with what you're doing, then it can bubble over, i.e. Alonso. And
I just think if Verstappen held his cool and just kept on producing results, I mean, he might still will, but I just think he should have waited a bit longer.
The thing is, he's kind of stuck in like a pen now, though. Because the thing is, he's contracted to Red Bull. He can't go anywhere. He's not having to really impress anyone. It's literally just waiting for Red Bull to try and get in a position to win. So he's just kind of floating along in the F1 world, picking up a bit of experience. So this is the prime opportunity. Yeah, exactly. This is the prime opportunity for him to just keep quiet and just chug along and pick up some points and show why he can be the number one team at number one driver at Red Bull. But gonna mention Ricciardo as well, who did get unlucky with the. I think it was debris in the front wing that ruined his pace. Luckily, it wasn't actually an engine issue for once. That was really unlucky, actually, because it looked like a podium was pretty much in the bag for him. It looked like a double Red Bull podium, which would have been a pretty solid weekend for Red Bull, considering they were, I think, about 4 tenths off in qualifying. So
Yeah.
that would have been the perfect result for them. I still feel they did pick up the most amount of points out of any team, didn't they?
Yeah.
I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think that it's still
I
a
think
good weekend.
Raikkonen still would have put pressure on, though. I thought he looked really good, Raikkonen. I've got to give him credit. I thought he looked really quick towards the end.
Yeah, after qualifying, I'm not going to go too much into qualifying. I voiced
Well,
it
he
on
definitely
Twitter.
did himself a big favour on Sunday after qualifying, put it that way. He needed that podium, Kimi. I think we sort of seamlessly transitioned into Ferrari already. But
Yeah. Let's give me on.
I think Raikkonen did himself a big favour. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think everyone here are all for Leclerc driving for Ferrari, but it is good to see Kimi still show, he's still got some pace there. I thought he ran really well on the super soft in the second stint. Even on the first, I mean, he went like longer on the ultras than he did on the supers.
Yeah, he went about 30-40 laps, yeah.
So he had good pace, and ultimately he had a poor start again on lap 1, lost positions, but you can see he made his way back through the field, constantly overtaking a couple of cars, got past Leclerc, got past Magnussen, got past Sainz, and then obviously eventually got past Ricciardo. So not bad. Set a couple of fastest laps. But in terms of Vettel, I think we've sort of already mentioned it, but I'll give him credit. I thought the recovery was superb. There was a big tantrum thrown on Twitter over the driver of the day thing, which I cannot understand. It's just opinions, guys. Seriously. Like me, personally, I'd say he deserves it because he recovered from his own mistake very good. Some people will say Hamilton deserved it. Fair enough. That's as simple as that. I don't think there's no reason to argue what the situation is here. I just thought, what? It was between Vettel and Hamilton. And I'll give it to Vettel just because he recovered from his own mistake nicely, because it was a potential race ender. But I can understand why people would give it Hamilton anyway. So, yeah.
I mean, it's the same as last season when Verstappen kept getting driver of the day. It's just like...
Yeah, exactly. So, what's the
doesn't really
matter?
mean much.
I think at the end of the day, fans appreciate overtakes. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's
people
what I wanted to say.
people hate to reluctantly give it to the person that wins the boring race.
Yeah.
So it's as simple as that. I don't think there's much more to the story. And people were throwing up a big fuss over Hamilton should have had a driver of the day. A driver of the day, people give you no points. So why do you care so much? It's frustrating.
It was I saw on Twitter, I think Andre Harrison, he came out with it. It's just the fact that at the end of the day, in a sport which we've been starved of action, especially in the last couple in the last couple of races, we've been starved of action. The fact that we had a driver give us some action, albeit in not the ideal way, but he gave us some action coming through the field and did display excellent driving skill to negotiate basically the whole field. So you can't say no to it. And to be fair, he mugged off Alonso proper badly.
That's a
on
brilliant
that
race.
restart.
That's the best move of the race. That's a fantastic
You've just
overtake.
made a Le Mans two-time world champion, well, a Le Mans winner and a two-time world champion just spin it.
That was
While
literally straight after the restart on cold tyres. So
that was brilliant. I've got to give it to Vettel.
I thought every move was efficient. All the ones on the straight when he went up the inside of, I think it was a double apex right-hander after Signe, the really fast.
Oh, on Hulkenberg.
Yeah, great overtakes. I thought the Eshman was great. Shout out Bottas, he did some great moves as well. The one on Perez around the outside of turn 2. Fantastic overtake.
Bottas down the inside of Grosjean on the long right-hander.
Yeah, brilliant moves, moves. So overall, I really enjoyed the race. But there's a bigger picture here which I want to discuss. Obviously, triple header. Vettel does not get off to the best start when it really matters to get the best results in these 3 races. The next 2 races don't really bode well for Ferrari. I mean, they're both fine, but they have a bit of a better picture for Mercedes than they do for Ferrari because of the nature of the circuit. Do we see a Vettel W in any of those 2?
I think he's maybe got a better chance at Silverstone than maybe Austria. I was
going to say, I got a feeling. I think this year at Silverstone, it could be a bit of a better one for them than last year because their car is a bit more...
Hopefully they've learned from last year.
A la Mercedes when it comes to the longer wheelbase setup of the car. And they did prove at France that even though you can definitely tell they don't run it that often when they do have to, when Vettel will turn the engine up coming through the field, you can see that Ferrari can go. So they definitely do have some horsepower there if they need it. You can definitely tell they don't run it often because there was a massive difference in straight line speed compared to other Ferrari engines. But I think he could give a challenge, but genuinely, I think he's going to... If he loses another 14 points over the next 2 races, I think he'll do well. By 14 points, I mean Hamilton wins the next 2 and he finishes second in both. And I think he's done well to cushion that and only lose 14 points as we then go into Hungary.
I mean, we're only we'd only just reached. Well, we're now into the second third of this season,
Yeah,
and that says everything. It feels like we're halfway, but we're only into the second third, which obviously isn't that far off. But we have got so many races still to come, and 2 races versus the rest of the season.
I just realised after Silverstone, is it Hungary or is it Hockenheim? Because that's going to be a big one.
It's Hockenheim. It's Hockenheim.
That's a big one.
We
That's
won't
one
know
where
at all. That's
no one
unknown
knows
as
how the
well.
cars perform, and that could be a game changer. That's one where Vettel, I know, will want to be really on his game. So that's a track where after Silverstone, if he can bounce straight back in Hockenheim in his home turf and pick up the W, then go into Hungary, then it's a bit more of a 50-50 because the Red Bulls might be a lot better around there this year as well. So
I think that should be a good thing also just for him, just to win at his home Grand
but
Prix.
I think it's critical now. He cushions the blow as much as he can. The next 2, like I think if he loses 14 points, added to the 14 he's already lost, and goes into Hockenheim 28 points down, I think that's a good scenario for him because I genuinely cannot see him really though getting a W in the next 2 races.
Be interesting to see, like whether or not the other drivers, it's like whether or not Bottas might, because it's not just Vettel. Like we need to think of the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Can Bottas take points off Hamilton? Because I think Bottas is still within the championship reach. I think especially obviously after that race he did drop back a bit, but he's still
everyone is. Ricardo's
almost
championship.
there.
He's ahead of Bottas now.
I think the furthest one away is Verstappen, isn't he? Because I think he's in
He's
5th.
on 60 something.
Or 6th, I want to say.
He's 6th. He's last out of the big wars.
Yeah, and like whether or not Raikkonen, because I mean, like Raikkonen, he did have an excellent race. I did voice my opinion on Twitter about his qualifying. The fact that he was a second off pole and 7/10 off his teammate after doing, I think, 3 or 4 attempts at getting a Q3 lap.
He only had 2. The first one,
but
which was his 1 second lap, and his second attempt, he made that mistake, which we all saw.
And I mean,
And
he
then he
completely
had no
screwed
fuel.
up Magnussen's qualifying as well, which I did.
And he had no fuel left, I don't think, so he couldn't go for a third.
Yeah,
lap.
I was quite concerned of Kimi's qualifying. I think if Kimi could get his qualifying sorted, then I feel like
He'd be a lot better.
He'd be a lot better. But like, it's not the first time this season. I think it's a solid 5 or 6 occasions now where he has messed up qualifying. Like, he could
There's
be
definitely
perfect.
been more rather than less.
Interestingly, though, did you see about Hamilton? He said that his Q3 lap wasn't good. He said it wasn't.
It wasn't. Their pace, if you look at the pace improvement from Q2 on super softs to Q3, they only gained like half a second, 4 tenths.
Yeah, I was
wasn't
shocked
a
at that
massive.
because like no one gets pole and go, yeah, it was a bad lap.
I
Like, it wasn't the
was
best.
dead certain they were going to dip into a 1 minute 29. Hamilton got a 30.023, I think it was, but I was dead certain they were going to dip into
I think Christian
29.
Horner said the theoretical, like where the best sectors were all added together, the theoretical time was in the 29s, but for some reason he couldn't nail it. But is that the top 6? I mean, or top 3 over and done with? And then we go.
Yeah.
Now we'll step into Formula B.
K-Mag.
And the
very,
best
very good
K-Mag,
show.
yeah.
Good race, really good race again. He's been
I'm
good.
proper
He's
happy
been
for
good
him.
this season.
He's been the
I've got
team
to credit.
leader of Haas when you got to say at the start of the season you probably say Grosjean once again would be the team leader, but he's pretty much taken that role.
He started on the same row as his teammate. One finish in 6th, the other one finished in P12.
I mean, Grosjean put it in the wall in Q3. Not entirely sure how. It looks like he just tried to take a little bit too much off the table, but the fact that Magnussen is picking up points for Haas is good because they need to capitalise on these weekends where they are good, because we come off the back of Canada where they were miles off, weren't they? They were far away from the points. In the same way with Monaco as well, they had 2 dire weekends in a row.
Yeah.
And the fact that they can bounce back like that and just
Very
pick
weird.
up,
Very weird. Very
I
yo-yo-y
don't-
performance.
It's so
Well,
strange.
Magnussen said that you can't forget they're still a relatively new team. They're still constantly learning stuff. So I think that's going to be the pattern with them this season. I think you're going to get a lot of that. But the good thing for them is knowing that when the car is switched on, they've got potentially the 4th best car on the grid, which is good news for them.
Yeah.
It's nice to see, at least. And they can pick up points over. I think, where was Sainz running? Sainz was in 6th, wasn't he?
He was in 6th, and then
He was ahead of both.
A little bit of stroke of luck with Sainz's MGUK failure. But
Now-
other than that,
We got asked the question: is Grosjean
Okay.
under pressure to keep his drive,
yes.
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
and who comes in?
Well, I know what Arava's going to say.
No, I'm not. I mean, I
Are you
genuinely
not?
don't know who could go in. You could have, I don't know. It could be a bit of a domino effect, It could be some of the other drivers on other teams, maybe, throw in a Hartley or something like that. Or, I don't know. I mean, Even like you could even pop the question if at the end of the day Ferrari pull a bait and switch and don't want to drop Raikkonen, you could say okay, promote Leclerc maybe into the Haas then as like a Ferrari kind of, because they got the triple kind of threat team going on there.
That's a good shout, to be fair.
Or I don't know, you could put like a Van Dorn if he gets dropped by McLaren, put him in there. There's a lot of possibilities for Haas because they got a Ferrari affiliation but not too strong. So yeah. I mean, it's a tricky one for them.
It looks like the obvious choice for me is going to be Giovinazzi. Just because I don't think Ferrari.
I would say I said it on Twitter as like a joke, but now it's just like he's not had racing time for so long. I think he's completely lost his chance of ever having a Grand Prix career.
It's such a shame, honestly, because it did look like he was. I think he has been kind of outshone by Leclerc, and
completely.
When you get outshone in a driver program, i.e., let's use the example of Ricciardo versus Verne. Ricciardo outshone Verne. Verne gets the kick, and he's basically gone away from F1.
I do think that slot's going to be taken up by someone like someone that gets dropped. So, say for example, maybe possibly Van Dorn at the end of the season, or Kvyat, or maybe they will go for someone like a Verline, maybe a la Toro also. What they're trying to do.
Yeah, maybe. Verline's maybe a shout. He's always on the lookout. I don't know.
So I reckon there could be something there, but I think I feel bad for Grosjean, but he's done himself no favours. He really is. He's struggling. He really is. 8 races now, no points.
Yep.
The thing is, it looks so promising for him as well in Australia.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And how things can change. Like he's still not scored any points this year. Is he the only driver? Or
he's the only driver not to score points.
I was wondering if Sirotkin had scored points.
Actually, he might be. No, I think Sirotkin scored one in Baku.
I want to say he has as well, but I can't remember off the top of my head now.
I know, but I know it's maximum. Just 2 drivers haven't scored. If there is another one, I know it's maximum 2.
I know every team has scored points this season, but when you've got a teammate constantly outperforming, like let's see what Magnussen was still on the lead lap.
Yeah, it's him and Sirotkin, the only guys.
Yeah, Sirotkin crashed out back with didn't he? He got sandwiched. I remember.
It's Stroll that scored 4.
Yeah, so pressure's on, but I mean Sirotkin's even shown signs like Monaco. He went really well, so
interesting.
Grosjean's in trouble.
I think the driver market, because the driver market thing is going to especially over the summer. So that's probably what we can talk about when there's no F1 on. That's going to be the key point. But moving on to Renault at their home Grand Prix, absolute heartbreak for Sainz, who let's say got saved with his bacon. Like that virtual safety car absolutely saved his bacon.
It's a double-edged sword. Depends how you look at it. Could have lost everything, came away with something.
Yeah, I think they're still going to be happy with 8th and 9th. Surprising qualifying from there, because obviously Sainz got into Q3. Hulkenberg was surprised to get knocked out in Q2. I think it was a very, very fine margins after a certain Monegasque driver knocked out, which I'm going to talk about in a minute and go absolutely apeshit at, because I was so absolutely mental at that. But I think Renault could be happy at the home Grand Prix, still picking up a decent amount of points.
There is still one issue, though.
Which is?
Same engine failure as what Ricciardo had in Monaco. MG UK went, and that's the upgraded power unit. So that Gremlin still is that's still existing.
It's funny because obviously we go into this weekend. Obviously we never spoke about it on the podcast about this whole Red Bull engine deal and the fact that a Honda engine dies at the start of the weekend for Hartley, and then a Renault engine dies in the race.
I actually think the Honda's more reliable at this point. I really do.
I mean, Hartley's gone through a decent amount of parts so far. Yeah, I'm not entirely. I think maybe the Honda's the better engine in terms of performance. I think Renault's more reliable. I think
if it is, it's very close now. I wouldn't even say it's like 60-40.
It's going to be hard to pin the tail on the donkey, as you said, in terms of which one is
Never
the best.
Heard that one before, but we'll go with it.
That's a very English phrase, I think.
Good race.
Shout out to Hulkenberg as well. Nice strategy starting on them softs, taking them very long, making up a few positions, and getting into the points.
Yeah, I've been liking that Sainz finally found his feet.
Sainz resurged a bit, and I'm a big Hulkenberg fan, but since Spain, I think it was, Sainz has been pretty good.
I mean, Hulkenberg got T-boned by the almighty Grosjean, and then he put it in the wall.
And then again,
Baku.
he got consecutive DNFs, so he can't really count that. So
I mean, Baku is his only blip, but
and they were on for good points as well there. which was a shame. But
I know I just said about the whole driver. Go on, sorry.
I think in terms of consistency, Renault are the fourth best team. I know it has to spring in, but they're just consistently there. They always score the double points finish.
They are fourth in the championship now, aren't they?
And they are a manufacturer, so they've just got that edge where they can just keep on getting better. I think they are going to get there eventually. They'll get there faster than any other team. So I think it's always an upwards. They've got two good drivers. They've definitely surprised me when I first saw their car, and even then Australia didn't really rock up that different. I didn't expect them to be where they were, and they've sort of just been best of the rest, pretty much the most consistent. That's why they're fourth in the constructors. So
yeah,
shout out to them.
They're now finally ahead of McLaren, I think, in the championship after
they overtook them ages ago. I think
they've been ahead for like 3 races now.
Oh,
yeah, I think since Spain and Monaco.
It's Alonso in 7th. He's no longer there now. I think it's Sainz who's now
Alonso
there.
dropped down to 9th, I think, after that race.
Yeah, no, you kept bragging about it, didn't you? You kept going, yep, solid 7th, still best of the rest, and then like 2 races later.
No, Alonso, it's Hulkenberg in 7th, Alonso's 8th, Sainz in 9th.
Right, okay. So we can move on to the almighty Leclerc, who definitely his best weekend so far in his career, and we're only 8 races in. Q3.
No, I'd still say P6 was his best weekend of his career.
I don't know. In terms of just a whole, I feel like the Sauber was just not quick enough this weekend. But the fact that he managed to get it into Q3 was pretty mental. Like we thought Sauber were at the back, and the fact that he managed to get it in. No, at the start of the season we did. At the start of the season, we thought Sauber were going to be, well, I don't know whether he did or not, but
I always said Williams would be like the worst team.
We didn't have high hopes for Sauber, and the fact that they
you
are
didn't think they'd be
making...
Q3. Put it that way, like that's the best way.
Not
to
Q3, yeah.
So,
but I could definitely see teams worse. But credit to them. I mean, it's weird for me because it's the fairy tale of seeing a team last year struggling financially, and then they secured that sponsor deal midway through the season last year to get some backing, and then they signed the Alfa Romeo deal. And obviously, you want to dream and believe, and for once, unlike Manor, it's sort of shown fruits, So
and it's both drivers as well. To be fair, like Ericsson had a decent qualifier as well.
Got Q2 for the first time this season. Got to give him credit. Credit where credit's due. It just happened to be Leclerc got Q3.
Yeah, I know. It's always literally the one thing he does better, and then.
And if he set his Q2 lap time, he would have been 7th, not 8th. So it could have been really. I mean,
he had no tyres left apparently.
He was. That's an amazing show. Add that Saturday, his best Saturday, and then add the P6 he got at Baku. It's pretty much a dream rookie season for any rookie.
Really good, yeah.
Does he get put in the Ferrari next season?
I think he should.
Obviously
I think he should, and I think he will.
Yeah, I mean, we came into the weekend
there's
with
two questions to the argument. There's what you think and what will happen. I actually think it's going to happen. The way Raikkonen and Frobe been speaking, also saying that the next person in line is going to be Leclerc. They bluntly said that before the Grand Prix, just saying he is the next man in. I feel like they're getting ready for it.
Ferrari have done that in the past, though, haven't they? Like, they'll go ages without changing the lineup, and then they'll bluntly just go, "Yeah, that's the next driver." Like,
yeah, but I think they've done well though. Raikkonen's been a very good number 2, solid driver, doesn't complain, does a job, turns up when he has to. And they've waited until they genuinely had a driver who was on the Ferrari level. You could argue the hot flavour of the month, Giovinazzi maybe at the time, but you can just see in Leclerc, in what he's delivered, that he just is the man. So now it is time to really bring him in. Also the fact Ricciardo pretty much said Ferrari have not even bothered approaching him. Instead McLaren did. That obviously means Ferrari have their eyes set elsewhere. Where would that be? Most fingers would point at Leclerc. So
interesting stuff. That I think silly season. Do you know, like every couple of seasons we have like a mass change. I feel like next season is going to be that mass change where we see a little bit of silly season, a little bit of like.
And that's another thing. Raikkonen could go on the market. I mean, I think a lot of teams will still take Raikkonen. So
I can't see Raikkonen staying about.
I think you will. I think he can go to a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams will take him.
I think a lot of teams will take him, but I think he'll just won't be asked.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's lost his.
I think he might just call it quits. I think good time to call it quits.
I mean, it's a good team to retire from.
Oh yeah,
that he is.
Yeah.
So I think I like it when as much as you don't like to see drivers retire, it's nice to see them retired just so you can get the young hotshots in and give them a chance in Formula One. But is the next team? Oh, it's McLaren.
The woeful team.
What on earth?
Let's be short and sweet.
Okay, right, short and sweet. Absolute banter, and Alonso has the best spins in the world. No driver can match his spins. Good.
Yep. Done.
Yeah, I mean...
McLaren have been at fault the entire time since 2013. And then you look in the mirror and sort themselves out. Apparently, they've got aerodynamic issues, which they've discovered.
Give the team Freddos.
It's incredible. Apparently, aerodynamic issues did not show up in the wind tunnel. So the only way they can resolve it is by bringing things to the track and testing stuff. Yeah, nothing more to say here. This is our report on McLaren. They do not know how to run an F1 car or a team.
Wasn't
they
there a
are
while
out
with
of
Martin
ideas,
Whitmarsh at the
and
track?
they are begging for Martin Whitmarsh. Yeah, but they've categorically denied he's going to have any involvement in the team.
Right,
Essentially,
okay.
he ain't coming back. So
was
Eric
that clarified
Boulier,
by Eric Boulier? Because I think obviously he would say that.
they categorically denied in a very strong statement, without
Right.
pretty much saying F off.
Okay, well...
So Eric
they're just gonna
Boulier and
keep
Zach
continuing
Brown,
going backwards.
do you? And keep plugging away.
Well, I mean, Alonso had a failure just to end off his whole weekend. I think left rear failure. He spins it on lap 1. He has an issue on the first lap. No, I don't think he even has an issue. I think he literally just pit for strategic reasons and to go the softs all the way. Spins it on lap 1 when the whole field are bunched up, because that means you literally lose all the time that you could have maybe made up. And Van Dorn, I don't think we saw much of Van Dorn all
weekend in P12.
Yeah,
He
very
got out qualified
weekend.
again. That's pretty much all we know when it comes to a level playing field.
I mean, all them
everyone's
two
going
are
for it.
saying now, like, it's Alonso just bigging up Van Dorn, isn't it now? Like, Alonso just keeps going, yeah, I've beaten one of the best drivers coming through the ranks, and that's about it. I'm still fighting for 16th place.
It wasn't putting Van Dorn, he's putting himself over. Saying I'll be one of the greatest GP3 and GP2 champions ever, and I'm probably the only person that's 8-0 in qualifying on the grid. We've got such a talented driver.
It's
Fair
a
play.
shame.
I still think Alonso's untouchable. I think he's a really good driver. He just needs to go, man, and come back in a few years' time. But he needs to go for now.
He's off to IndyCar.
He deserves so much better. I'm sorry.
Well, it depends how you judge his politics, but the fact that
No, he deserves better. I think it's a real shame for him. I'm not a fan of his. I can never like Alonso that much because, well, I've never supported the guy. He went against my hero in 2 championships. Same way I'll never support Vettel, I just don't like the guy. Same way I never support Hamilton. But you show your respect, and I think Alonso has earned that. Everything he touches, he's phenomenal at, except a McLaren, which he just cannot seem to fix.
Yeah, it's there has been a few people pointing out that Alonso is going to get quite drained. He's looking quite drained with the amount of driving and testing that he's doing.
Who does that at 36? Let's be honest.
But the fact that he's managing it is pretty insane. But
that's what I'm saying. I just think he's like what's the word I'm looking for? He's like the triathlete of F1 when it comes to racing. Does various categories, still races all at once.
Does everything. He's have a bit of you.
I feel like he could delve into
you.
motorcycle racing if he wanted to and still do a good job. I just think he's that sort of guy.
Debatable. We'll see on that one. But should we move on to the other team that I think had another pretty piss poor weekend?
Well, just another standard one for their level.
No, I don't think so though, because I don't get how Toro Rosso can go from the highs of Bahrain to one being retired and one being at the back again.
I think Hartley's a very bad yardstick. I think if Gasly stayed in that race, he could have been around P11 fighting Grosjean and Vandal.
But even though you say highs of Bahrain, which was only really a high, it's mainly been mid to lowish.
I think Hartley's a very bad yardstick for Toro Rosso, and it kind of pretty much depends on if Gasly has a good weekend.
As well.
If Gasly has a good weekend or not, basically. I think that car's got good potential. It's just that there's been a lot of different little things for Gasly that's not allowed his weekend to click. And then obviously calendar wasn't great with they had the upgrade power unit, then they took it out, and then they brought it to this one, and he was looking okay. Gasly got into Q2, and then he got taken out. So I think I don't know. I think it's quite hard to call where Toros are right now because I think
Yeah.
Gasly could have done genuinely okay. I think they're doing
But they're on
fine
a
for where they are.
They're on a streak of pretty bad races now.
Yeah, they need to get a good weekend Austria. It might be a difficult one. It's a power circuit. That car's
okay
not
for
very
power,
draggy though, so
I think they're okay for straight line speed. I think if they can just hit the sweet spot, I think Austria could actually be a good opportunity for them because the whole Honda being slow on a straight line is an absolute myth. That's just McLaren draggy car. I think they've actually got a good straight line speed engine. They're always in the top 10 in speed traps, so they could potentially score some points at Austria. They need a solid like Renault. They need like an 8th and 9th, like a solid double points finish. They need like what Renault you got this weekend. Simple as that. They need a double points finish now.
We need to see them make a little bit of resurgence in terms of championship-wise. I mean, this season you could technically class as like a testing sort of year with the Honda because obviously it is the first year of their marriage, and they're giving some. Well, I think it's been released that Red Bull have had a significant amount of data from Toro Rosso in order to influence their decision in terms of whether or not they go Honda or Renault. So they're kind of stuck in the middle of all this engine malarkey, and they're just like, yeah, we'll run these engines and just see how they are.
I don't think they would have been any better off with Renault engines though, and that's where I'm sort of like, I just think maybe something's not right with the car. I haven't really got the package.
The problem
working
is
together. You know,
the big problem, the overall problem with Red Bull is they aren't a manufacturer, so they can't make their own engines. And in the same way that the McLaren had the issue, it's hard to take the plunge and just go, yeah, let's make our own engines, or let's work with a
McLaren
company.
is one thing I cannot believe it's taken this long and they still have not considered making their own engine. It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, in the future we've got Porsche and Aston Martin wanting to make engines at the minute, so we might have quite a few.
If Porsche
again.
make them, there's a good chance they'll do them for McLaren because they're owned by the same company.
Oh, are they?
I think they are.
Interesting. But you're going to have hilarious names soon. It's going to be like McLaren, Porsche. In the same way that Red Bull is going to be like Red Bull, Tag Heuer, whatever, like however they want
Red Bull,
to say
Tag Heuer,
it.
Aston Martin, Honda.
Absolute mouthful. Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing.
They should bring back Infinity just for the band. Infinity, Red Bull Racing, Aston Martin, Honda F1 team.
All the names.
And need 3 lines of their name.
Finally, we can round it out with Williams, who will last.
Dead team.
And now previewing the next race.
Dead team, Williams. Dead team. Nothing to say about them.
I was disappointed because we didn't see the illustrious Stroll amazing start, because that's been a feature of every race so far this season.
Didn't need it, mate. That one was good enough.
And I was quite disappointed. I've realised that he DNF'd, but I'm not entirely sure why.
Yeah, he had a puncture.
He had a puncture.
That
was like the big thing in the last 5 laps.
That's the only thing.
That's why there was a VSC.
About that. Yeah. That's how irrelevant.
That's how dead
they are.
Williams are. That no one cares that they had a puncture.
And that's why they are what they are. Because he's the default team leader and he's terrible.
The other problem is, when he says, "Oh yeah, the tyre blew up," and he acts like it's not his fault, and then we cut to a replay of him putting a dirty flat spot on that left front, and it's not the first time he's done that in his 2 years of being in the sport. He does it a lot, and he destroys his tyre. No, there was somewhere else.
They lose Martini going to next year. I'd love to know what they've got lined up.
Absolutely nothing.
Liquidation. Where was it where Stroll also had that problem with his tyre? There was some. He had it
Brazil last year.
Yeah, Brazil.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's not the first time. He needs to stop doing that.
Well, he just moans about everything. He's got no positive things to say. Every interview is just. But
unlike Sorokin.
Sorokin's like, well, I think I'm improving every race. I'm getting better. I'm still learning. He's a bit more.
I think Martin Brundle did on the grid walk. He interviewed him in, I think it was either Canada or Monaco, and he was just like, yeah, well, it is how it is. I'm not going to moan about it. I'm just going to drive as fast as I can and try and beat my teammate, and that's how it is. And I like a good attitude. I like that, just because he's not been praised as the best driver in the sport, but he's just getting on with it, on with what he's paid to do, which is nice to see. And that rounds out
the French GP, and moving on straight into predicting the Austrian Grand Prix. Obviously, I don't know. I think Mercedes will go well. I'm hoping Ferrari and Red Bull could be there. It's kind of like just a hopeful nature again.
It's Mercedes now down, but
midfield wise, what do we think? Midfield wise, Maybe going to be any standouts?
Tough one.
I can't really tell, really, because Renault had a very yo-yo on this race because they were like, because even they said themselves they were expecting a better race pace, and they did have a better race pace.
I'll say this: I've made my fantasy team. Magnussen's my turbo driver for this race.
Do you think
that tells you what I'm thinking.
Right. Okay. So you're putting
it's a very simple track. So unless there's an absolute mystery, I'm expecting it has to be the fourth best team.
You're putting the hope in the team that have brake issues at a track that has the heaviest braking.
Grosjean has brake issues, Callum, not Magnussen.
Oh, well, the problem with Magnussen is he doesn't use them half the time. Well, it was in practice, wasn't it, where he almost hit Perez or something stupid like that. I don't know. I want to say, like, Toro Rosso did spring up into my mind of they may be able to have just a simple weekend, but I'm swinging towards Renault in terms of just how consistent they are at every track.
Hard to also overlook Force India as well.
See, Force India. Oh, we completely forgot about Force India. Oh, shit.
Oh,
that just sums up how bad their weekend
There's actually not much I'm not going to lie. Anyone complaining that we just missed them, I'm sorry, there's nothing to say. Ocon DNF, Perez engine failure. He had the quietest race before. The first time I saw Perez in that race was when he retired.
Yeah, they had a bad weekend.
So
it was a shame for Ocon in one. Yeah, a shame for Ocon in one respect. But you can't talk about his race, and shame for Perez because I think that's his only retirement in. I think that's his second retirement in 57 races or something like that. Something stupid, which is a shame. But yeah, you can't really.
Take the L.
I'm struggling to think of
Nothing
anything to say.
Take the L.
So let's hope they have a good weekend again.
So should we just get into predicting the Austrian Grand Prix then?
Go on then.
I'll tell you one team who won't do well, McLaren.
Oh really?
No.
And I think they'll struggle to beat Williams.
Okay, that's a bit strong. Williams were horrendous.
Yeah, I know, but they've still got a quick car on a straight line.
I mean, yeah.
No, they don't though. They don't. That's the thing. They really don't.
Still a lot quicker than McLaren.
Okay, but it's not enough, I don't think, to offset the time McLaren may be having the corners.
I refuse to believe McLaren have a good chassis anymore.
But it's better than Williams. You've got to give them that. So
it'd be hard for it to be worse.
The clever people will be able to tell us whether or not that's the case. But
anyway, Bottas
predictions.
Pole, Bottas W.
So all right, okay.
Do you want to go with the top 5 then, sir?
Well, I need a bit more time to think about that, but that's straight away my gut instinct coming into play.
Right, we'll just ignore what you said for the win. Just pole. He said Bottas. Cal, your pole, man.
I'll go Bottas as well. Why not?
I'm gonna go Hamilton. I'm gonna go Hamilton.
And I know it is going to be Hamilton, but I'm just hoping for the more unorthodox one.
I think pole will be Hamilton, and then the top 5
race. Bottas, Hamilton, Vettel, Raikkonen, Verstappen.
Red Bull out taking the L this weekend then.
I just think they still lack a bit of pace when they need to.
I'll say Bottas win, Hamilton second. Let's stick Raikkonen on the podium, Vettel fourth, and then.
You genuinely think Ferrari let that happen?
Ricciardo fifth. Yeah, why not?
I'm going to say Hamilton win, Vettel second, Verstappen third, Raikkonen fourth, Bottas fifth.
Wow, you're so harsh on Bottas, mate. You want him to do well, but then you give him that shitty prediction, mate.
Yeah, because I want him to do well, but I think he'll get another bit of bad luck, so... There's a difference between predicting and what I want.
What you want. Yeah, like the
like if in an ideal world, I'd want Vettel first, like Verstappen second, Hamilton all the way down in fifth, so the championship swings back. But it's just not going to happen. Or it might do. We've seen some crazy Austrian Grand Prix in the past.
I mean, if there's a bit of rain, that'd be nice.
Bit of rain, or I don't know. We've seen plenty of stuff. Vettel spitting out in 2015 or 16.
I was thinking, random comment. When was the last time we had a race where apparently, I mean, it didn't actually happen in the end, but it starts dry and transitions to wet? I was thinking about the other day. I could not think of one. I thought Silverstone 2015, but that was wet to dry.
No. That was dry to wet. I watched it the other week.
Silverstone 2015 was dry to wet.
2016.
Yeah, it was. It started off dry. Remember, Williams got that amazing start.
I watched it because Williams had the amazing start.
That's the most recent one I can remember.
Yeah, that's the only one because I remember that Hamilton call, which was pretty much perfect. Yeah. And then the next wet race after that, I think, was Monaco 2016. 2017, we had a
Oh,
wet
wet
to
to dry,
dry Singapore. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And then, obviously we didn't have much. We didn't really have much wet weather at all last year. Thinking about it,
No, not
we had
a
a
lot.
wet qualifying in Silverstone. The only reason I remember that because I was cold and I was there, as you two were.
Do we want to move on to Patreon
Yeah,
questions?
to round it out, Patreon questions. So we relating to the French Grand Prix, both of them. Lewis asks, should F1 return to manual core or stay at Paul Ricard after this?
I'd still love them to go back to manual core with these cars. That'd be absolutely incredible.
I mean, yeah, we'd see some incredible hot laps.
Especially going to next year with the less dirty air, hopefully. But I give Paul Ricard the benefit of the doubt with next year's cars. I think it'll be fine. I mean, I enjoy the race, so why not give it another year?
I mean, realistically, you got to say
Have
Paul
both on the
Ricard is
calendar.
going to stay on the calendar for now.
Yeah.
Magny-Cours, I'd love to see back, but
It is in the middle of nowhere, which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, there was a lot of bad talk about Paul Ricard's traffic management at the circuit this weekend.
that they need to sort that out like immediately before the next race because the fact
Like
that people
4-hour
had to
traffic
miss,
jams.
They
that people
obviously
skipped the
didn't
race.
test it enough.
High performance test track can't test the roads. Well, that's the problem. It is only a test track, so only about 4 people turn up, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like they need to sort that out because the fact that people had to purposely skip the race or walk to the track and be
Poor.
3 miles out is
Awful.
extremely bad. Like I think we can speak from experience of Silverstone and like the way that you can get. Obviously, we were camping at the circuit, but still the way you can get around the circuit has been renovated in recent years to improve traffic situations. And if you want to take the 21 Super Bowl approach, you need to have a Super Bowl attendance be able to turn up and actually watch the race at least.
Yeah.
But
Get them in the actual
fair play,
grandstand.
Paul Ricard. It was still a good race. So
Yeah, I mean that moves into the last one from Ram McPhee. Chicane or no chicane on the back straight.
So that's going to be a unanimous decision on this one.
I don't know because
Really? I mean, it
I'm
depends on
hun-
how. It
after the
depends on the
race-
DRS zone.
After the race, I'm 100% down for a chicane.
I think it
After
worked well.
qualifying, I was no chicane.
I think with the wind, that DRS was really powerful, so the chicane was very useful.
I mean,
it gave us all the overtakes, so I'm down for the chicane.
I
Also,
feel
to
like
get rid of the
we'd have
chicane, it
some
makes
very
it
interesting racing if there was no chicane because you'd have probably a double slipstream where you'd overtake someone and they'd try and slipstream you back, and also with the
Maybe.
DRS.
I feel like you get rid of the chicane, it makes it even more of a murk track. I don't want that.
I know, but we're not talking about Merc tracks. We're talking about raceable tracks, like how good the racing could be. And
Yeah, I
to
thought
be
the chicane was
fair,
good.
I think
gave us all the overtakes.
if
could
you had
imagine,
the
like,
same
3
wind,
wide going into turn 10 or turn 8.
I think if you had the same wind, no chicane, remove the DRS or just make it
that's
really
what
short.
I said. Yeah, that's what I said.
We'll make it
Remove
really
the
short
DRS down
because
that straight.
the wind plus DRS combo this race made every overtake look so easy into that chicane because it was so powerful. So,
I feel like-
I'm not going to complain about easy overtakes because we actually got them this race, so I'm not saying nothing.
Yeah, that's a completely different story. But I don't know. I said this to one of you two yesterday. The fact that this can be probably one of the first tracks where they can maybe start to phase out DRS by removing that chicane and just having drivers use the slipstream
Yeah,
because
but
that is a bloody long straight.
You said about the wind, but DRS was really powerful on the main straight, which is the reverse. It wasn't just the back straight. I just think DRS is powerful there.
It is.
There was a
Maybe
lot of
with-
overtakes into the first corner.
Yeah, I suppose. We'll see how we go. But I mean, they need to change the pit lane exit as well because that was pretty shambolic.
I don't think they
Yeah,
can change that.
I feel
think
I
that's-
feel like they're gonna have to though because
I don't know how though. How would you change that?
I don't know. Just
Like
like bridge.
unless they make a really stupid pit lane that goes past turn 1 and exits them at turn 2.
To be
I don't
fair,
think
it wouldn't be a bad
there's
idea.
no way. Like even the commentator was like, that's just the quirk of Paul Ricard that it just exits out onto the racing line. They can't really do much. I don't think.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll
It's
see what they do for next year.
that's a characteristic where you can tell it's not a race circuit, it's a test circuit, where it's just like it's a bit of an odd thing to have, like the way it's engineered.
Yeah, the pit lane exit. Like, I think the last track to be like that, I think, was Korea. All the way
Yeah.
back. Remember when they had to keep changing the pit lane exit because it was right on the racing line? And I think Rosberg T-burned someone in 2011 when they were coming out of the pit lane.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had a bit of an issue, but we'll see. I know that a lot of the drivers voiced concern in the drivers' briefing. I kind of wish they recorded that one. You know, our last season when they did record.
Yeah, because didn't
Driving
someone say
briefing.
let's go back to Magny-Cours?
I think someone did. Yeah.
Someone did say that. No one knows who it was. If it was a personnel or it was a driver that said that, but apparently that was something in the driver's briefing. That was
He
quite
probably
funny.
was one of the older drivers, I want to say.
Maybe, yeah, possibly.
But
But
we'll see how we get next year.
I think that pretty much rounds out this podcast then for number 88. So final little words, guys. If you are new around here and you do want to see more from the podcast, do get subscribed to this channel. Check out these two. Also, a little note, Callum actually has a new Twitter now. So you would have seen that on screen. He got blocked because he changed his date of birth and they thought he was too young, which he was when he made the account. Anyway, he's got a new account. So go check him out on that new account and try and get him back his followers if you did used to follow him. But check them out as always. It's on screen. And obviously we just did 2 Patreon questions. If you do like what we're doing around here, you can support us directly. For different amounts. And if you do a certain amount, you can get into our Discord for Patreon followers as well. And that gets you also into our fantasy league on as well, which I'm doing horrendous at in both cases. I think Callum, you're second in our Patreon league.
Oh, I haven't checked.
I just checked a bit earlier.
One.
I think you're second and I'm 5th. So you can have the opportunity to thrash me and maybe go up against Callum for top spot. If you're also new around here, you might not know we're on audio as well, SoundCloud and iTunes, so you can have us on the go. Just search out the Pitlane Podcast. And finally, if you want to get yourself a racing chair maybe for your office, you can check out GT Omega and use the code PitlaneF1 for a 5% off. But that's been this podcast. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time to review the Austrian Grand Prix back to back to back. We'll see you guys then. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.